Hey everyone, welcome to Nature's Lens. This is Katie Kraus, the program manager for the Ridges Sanctuary, and this week we are looking at the ridges from a new angle in a bird's eye view of the Ridges Sanctuary and Bailey's Harbor and surrounding areas. We were lucky enough to be joined by Bill Freyman, volunteer at the Ridges Sanctuary, and his drone to capture this really incredible view of the Ridges Sanctuary. Today, we're going to be diving into some of the ridge and swale habitats and looking at why they were formed, how they were formed, and what you can experience when you hike out here at the Ridges Sanctuary. Enjoy! We want to start out by looking at the different swale habitats that we have here at the Ridges Sanctuary. Now, right now, we are navigating over a swale that has an open water habitat, has some cattail habitats, and further down we're going to see it has some sedge meadow habitats. Now, what is a swale? A swale is a wetland that's in between two ridges. Those ridges are old shorelines that are created by Lake Michigan, and what happens is the water level rises and Lake Michigan moves sand and creates a shoreline. Water level drops, the lake recedes, then the water level rises again, and we have another ridge that's formed. So we have two higher areas, and in between we end up with this low area that is a constant wetland. Now, right now, we've moved on down to Sandy Swale, where we have a really well-established sedge meadow habitat. There are a lot of plants, there's a lot of insects, there's a lot of different things that rely on these kind of habitats, so we really love to showcase them. These sedge meadow habitats I like to also call Dragonfly Runs, because as you walk and hike out at the Ridges Sanctuary, you're going to see dragonflies whipping back and forth down these really long corridors. Off in the distance here, you're able to see a little glimpse of Moonlight Bay, which is part of Lake Michigan. And as we spin around here, we're going to be seeing Apple's Bluff pop up in the distance. Apple's Bluff is a property that is protected by the Ridges Sanctuary, and we will be diving into that property and talking about that in great detail in a future Nature Lens program. Our ridges and swales here on the property date back to as old as 1100 years old and as young as currently being formed today. So if you were to hike out to some of the oldest parts of the sanctuary up near Apple's Bluff, you would be hiking on land that is 1100 years old. You could be hiking in the sanctuary trails right here in Bailey's Harbor from the Nature Center that are dating from about 250 years old to 800 years old, and then you can hike down to the beach and see the ridges that are being formed currently. You can also see right now ridges that are being formed and destroyed in the same breath with the rising water of Lake Michigan. Just like our swales, the ridges have a lot of variation in what they look like. This ridge that we're flying over right now is along our Sandy Trail, and this area is called Sandy because it is quite sandy. This ridge is much closer to the lake than some of the other spots on the sanctuary, and it's really evident that this was at one time an old shoreline that was created by Lake Michigan. Now, one of the questions that we always get when we're out here hiking with a group of people is how on earth do these trees grow in sand? Some of the trees that are here are 100 years old, they may be older, they may be younger, but they are growing in sand, which if you've ever been in other sandy habitats, the trees have a really hard time hanging on. So they need something to help them hold on to this, sandy soil. So what you can see here along the base of the forest floor here is a ground cover that is juniper, and juniper has a really, really dense, intricate root system that allows these trees to grab onto something in order for them to establish. These habitats then are where we have the succession starting for the rest of what we see in the ridges and swales. So these trees will grow up, and eventually, they don't live forever, they die, they fall over, and that organic material of the decomposed trees and other vegetation starts to mix with the sand. So when you're hiking out in our trails and you go to some of the older ridges and older swales, you're going to see a much darker, less sandy soil type. And that's going to bring a whole nother grouping of plants and insects and birds and everything that rely on these different spaces. So we're lucky enough here to see such an incredible variation between these different habitats. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this bird's eye view of the Ridges Sanctuary. We hope we see you out on the trail sometime soon. Huge shout out goes out to Bill Freyman, our volunteer that brought his drone in to help film this footage today. What an incredible perspective of the sanctuary. Thanks, Bill. And remember, if you're interested in shooting professional photography or flying drones on our property, to check out our photography policy located on our website and is linked down in the description box. Thanks everyone, see you soon!